So as you get to a certain age, you start to lose a little bit of mobility, you start to reduce your range of motion, and you start to lose a little bit of speed. But we're going to give you those things back in this video. So let's start off by looking and thinking about how we set up to the golf ball. I've got driver here. We are specifically talking about driver, and how we set ourselves up is hugely important. It can influence so much. So let me take my normal address to this golf ball. And we're going to make 3 changes in your setup to help you increase your range of motion during the backswing. The first thing I want you to do is I want you to take your trail leg, or your trail foot, so for me that's my right foot, and you're going to move it back away from the golf ball a little bit. So effectively I'm closing my stance. Now I don't necessarily need that or want that to influence my shoulders. It's more just a case of bringing that foot back. That's the first thing. The second thing I'm going to get you to do is take this trail foot and turn and flare the toe a little bit more out away from the target. So it's pointing, let's say, more to 2 o'clock if we looked at a clock face with 12 being the golf ball. That's the second thing. And the third thing is we're going to take our head and we're going to preset it and rotate it slightly away from the target. So I'm looking at the golf ball a little bit more through my lead eye. Now that setup might look a little different. It might not look what you see on the PGA Tour, LPGA Tour, but it's massively going to help. By closing the stance, what we do is we open up the hips and we give ourselves a greater chance of making a increased turn through this area here. That's really important. By rotating the foot out, again, what that does, it opens up this trail hip and gives us a much greater range of motion as we move into the backswing. And the final thing is that head, hugely important. Often as you get to that certain age, you lose mobility in your neck. And if you lose mobility in your neck, you can't turn your shoulders. And that's what happens. We get stuck and we get short with our turn. When we get short with our turn, our arms get narrow. And when we get narrow arms, we struggle to generate speed. So those 3 setup changes, foot back, toe flared out, head rotated, should enable us to create a much bigger turn and keep some of that width, which is so important with the driver. So phase number 1, change the setup, and then from there, just give it a hit. So stage number 2 is all about you trying to find how you need to turn in the golf swing and what you need to do to achieve the right turn. Very often when we keep saying this, but when we approach those certain ages, it's the length of the backswing that gets short, and it's because of mobility, and it's that really causes the lack of distance. So there's lots of things that we can do in the backswing to increase the turn, but rather than me tell you what to do, I'm going to provide you here with a little exercise which is going to allow you to feel what you need to do. Much better way of doing this. So I'm going to take my address to the golf ball, and obviously I might want to take that same address that we've just gone through. And very simply what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my lead hand off the golf club, and I'm going to use one arm to try and move the club towards sort of the top of a backswing. And what you're going to find is just using one arm, it should be relatively easy to get the club into a pretty full position. You can see how the club shaft isn't quite level with the ground, but it's a nice full backswing position. That feels relatively easy. Now watch what happens if I take my left hand and try and reach across to that golf club. I can't get anywhere near that golf club. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just start to feel what would I need to do to reach that golf club. And I'll start to feel that I have to allow my lead knee to kick in towards the golf ball. I possibly have to let my lead heel lift off the ground, and suddenly I can place my hand on that golf club. So what it allowed me to do is it allowed me to sort of see, okay, well, if I want to be in that position at the top, I need to allow this knee to kick in more. I need to allow this heel to lift off the ground more. I need to allow my hips to turn more than what I've been possibly doing in the past. Great exercise. It allows you to find out your own feels, what works for you and what you need to do. Now for some of you, you may be able to place the left hand on without moving anything, if you're super flexible. But if you're not, again, there's the feel I want. Lead knee has kicked in behind the golf ball. Trail heel, that's my lead heel. Lead heel has raised off the ground a little bit, and I felt that I had to allow my hips to turn more than what I maybe would do in the past. So I've now got a visual, I've got a feeling, I've got a concept of what I need to do with my body to allow me to achieve this nice full position at the top. What I then need to do is take a setup inside the ball, have some practice swings where I'm trying to recreate what I just felt in that practice. So I'm starting to now paint that picture that I've got in my mind. What did it feel like at the top? How do I get there? Then how do I swing through? So stage number 2 is all about appreciating how you need to turn and what you need to do to achieve that full length, that full backswing, which is going to help you increase that range of motion and get some of that distance back that you might have lost. And the final point, number 3, and how you're going to get some of that distance back and that speed back that you might have lost, is just to appreciate how to put some speed into the club head. What we've done so far, especially with that setup, is we've given you an increase in your range of motion this side of the ball, the backswing rotation. Lots of those things that we've done, in actual fact, will limit how much you can rotate through the golf ball. Now that's fine, because even if we didn't do those things, many of you will have limited rotation and mobility anyway. So in terms of the speed, where we want that to come from, it's going to come more from the hands and the arms. And 90% of the speed in your swing will come from the hands and the arms. Those golfers out there who have lost distance potentially are trying to get that distance back by using the body too much. Now the body, bigger muscles, potentially stronger, but not faster. Stronger muscles aren't faster. The fastest muscles in your body are your hands and your arms, and we need to utilize those. So in order to make sure that we can get the speed out into the club head, the first thing we have to do is make sure that we're holding the golf club with the fingers. Very much in the fingers, that's going to give me the greatest range of motion and help me generate the speed. We don't want that club running up into the palm of the hand. So a great little exercise for you to do is take your hand, your lead hand, and just curl the fingers under at the bottom. So you're trying to feel it, you just curl the bottom of the fingers. You create this almost little well that the club's going to sit in. And then take that and just allow the club to sit into that part of the hand. The pad sits on top of the handle, and we've now got our grip perfect. We have to now learn how to use that to put speed into the club head. So what I'd love you to do is just stand up normally. You don't need to be in golf posture, but just focus on swinging the club head around your body and trying to get the club head to travel as far as you can with your hands traveling a short as distance as you can. So this would be the opposite. This would be the hands and the club head both traveling a big distance around my body. This is what we don't want. What we do want is this. So notice how the club head is traveling a fair distance around my body, but my hands aren't traveling a huge amount. This is me utilizing the hands and the wrists. This is where a lot of the speed is going to come from. This is where we want the speed to come from. Nice light grip pressure. Wrists are very fluid. I'm allowing those to hinge and set. And what I can start to do is just make some swings. Hopefully the microphone is picking that up, where I'm just trying to create a nice loud whooshing noise just past the golf ball. So as I set up, I'm trying to visualize an area just past the golf ball. And hopefully you can hear that noise. Now you can see there's not a huge amount of body turn here. And that's absolutely fine, because many of you will have limited body rotation, but we can still generate speed if we are giving ourselves a big turn on the way back, gives us more time to generate speed. And then we are making the most of our faster muscles, which are in the hands and the arms. If you try and muscle the club through with your body, it's going to be slow. It's not going to be efficient. So those three things massively going to help you get that range of motion back, get that speed back in the club head, and ultimately get some of that distance back as well. So on this shot, all three things: setup, head position, backswing, lots of hand speed. I'd almost guarantee that you can get some more distance and you can be playing the game like possibly you did 10, 15, maybe even 20 years ago.